All right, let's talk about the future. I mean, the very near future. The world of tech moves fast, right? But some changes, they're more like earthquakes. So today, we're going to break down the 5 absolute game-changing technology trends that are set to shape everything in 2025 and well beyond. So here's the plan. We'll start with a quick look at the big picture, then dive right into generative AI, blockchain's new life beyond crypto, the huge shift to edge computing, why greener software is so important, and wrap it up with a peek into the quantum future. Let's jump in.
Okay, first things first. Before we get into all the cool tech, let's ask a really important question. Why does any of this matter? Well, keeping up with these trends isn't just about sounding smart at parties. It's about strategic survival for businesses.
For any company out there, staying on top of this stuff is non-negotiable. There's a great line in the source material that really nails it. Timely adoption of new tech is what keeps them competitive and guides their digital path going forward. Think about that. In a world that's constantly changing, this knowledge is basically your map. All right, let's dive into our first major trend. And this one, well, you've definitely heard of it. It's everywhere. We're talking about the absolutely mind-blowing creative power of generative AI. So what makes Gen AI so different? Well, think of traditional AI as a librarian, really good at organizing and finding information that's already there. Gen AI, it's more like an artist. It doesn't just analyze existing data, it learns the patterns and then creates something totally new and unique. Images, text, you name it. And if you're wondering just how big this is, get this. By 2025, the market for generative AI is expected to hit almost $63 billion. That's not just a trend, that is a massive economic tidal wave. So what can this stuff actually do? Well, in text, imagine writing marketing copy or summing up a huge report in like seconds. For audio, it's creating super realistic voiceovers or even music. Then you've got video, where it can whip up digital avatars and animations, and with images, it can generate incredible concept art from just a few words. The real magic here is automation. Tasks that used to take a team days can now be done in minutes. Okay, so if generative AI is creating all this new digital stuff, our next trend is all about how we prove who owns it. Let's talk about blockchain, because it's finally growing up and moving way beyond its cryptocurrency roots. Remember the whole NFT craze? The digital art, the collectibles, the crazy prices? It was all hype and speculation. But now, things are getting interesting. We're seeing a shift to real-world utility. Companies are using this tech to give people access to exclusive events, offer unique customer rewards. Basically, they're moving from just speculative buzz to real, practical value. And the financial side of this is, well, it's staggering. Take asset tokenization. That's just a fancy way of saying you're turning a physical thing, like a building, into a digital token on the blockchain. By 2030, just the market for tokenized real estate is projected to be worth 1.4 times trillion dollars. That's trillion with a T. It's opening up investment opportunities for everyone. And the cool part is, this tech is getting way easier to use. You've got things like blockchain as a service, or BOSS, which lets companies use it through the cloud without building everything from scratch. This is why enterprise blockchain and asset tokenization are really taking off, making things more secure and efficient for big companies. All right, our third trend is all about location, location, location. But for our data, it's a huge shift in where the digital action happens. We're talking about the rise of edge computing. So for years, everyone was saying, move to the cloud, right? Everything went to these big, centralized data centers. Well, edge computing completely flips that idea on its head. Instead of sending data all the way to the cloud and back, it brings the processing power right to the edge, close to where the data is actually being created. This means way less delay, which is crucial for real-time applications. And just how big is this shift? By 2025, it's expected that more than 75%, 3/4 of all enterprise data will be generated and processed at the edge. This isn't just a small tweak, folks. It's a complete overhaul of how we handle data. And it's what's going to power things like smart factories and self-driving cars. Okay, we've talked about data architecture. Now let's talk about the architecture of our code itself. Our fourth trend is about a huge responsibility the tech industry is finally starting to own: building greener software. So why does this matter so much? Well, the entire tech industry,
all the data centers, the networks, everything, is responsible for almost 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than the entire airline industry. As we use more tech, that number just keeps climbing, and people are finally waking up to it.
The good news is we can actually do something about it. There are some real practical steps. Things like optimizing code and algorithms, using fewer servers, and, this is a big one, choosing cloud providers that run on green energy. It's all part of a movement to build tech that's not just smart, but also sustainable. And now for our last trend. We're going to take a pretty big leap into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but trust me, it's getting more real by the day. Let's talk about the quantum future. Yeah, and we are not talking about a small upgrade here. This isn't just a slightly faster computer. Quantum computers work thousands of times faster than the ones we use today. This kind of power could let us solve problems in things like medicine and finance that are completely impossible for us to tackle right now. But there's a catch, a big one. The main thing holding quantum back isn't the technology itself, it's finding people who actually understand it. By 2025, we're going to need about 10,000 skilled experts, but we'll have less than 5,000. That massive talent gap is the #1 roadblock right now. So when you look at all 5 of these trends, one thing becomes crystal clear. The tech world never, ever stops. For anyone leading a business, the big takeaway isn't just about buying the latest gadget. It's about really understanding these deep, strategic shifts that are going to define what's next and, help you navigate the road ahead. And that brings me to a final question, and this one's for you. When you think about generative AI, blockchain, edge computing, green software, and quantum, which one of those do you think is going to be the biggest force of change in your industry by the time we hit 2030? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.